Thanks very much, guys, and thanks, Ashton, for that introduction. So I guess, yeah, I'm standing up here as a bit of a representative of how you can benefit from a lot of the early career mechanisms to support people in this room. So I finished the ICAT program, which is now primarily funded by HRB, and I'm involved in the ICC, CTN, and the CTG, and I've been invited to speak here, so thanks very much. So what I'm going to talk about is the PANTHER trial and how we deal with early career researcher involvement, what we've done, and our plans going forward. So Danny's already showed a slightly different version of this slide. So this is to show kind of the design of the PANTHER trial. And again, you don't have to worry too much about the details. But I guess it's to show you that this is, PANTHER is our phenotyping trial in ARDS, where we're splitting patients with ARDS into two subgroups based on circulating inflammatory markers, and then randomizing them to one of two interventions or standard of care with a plan to add further interventions as we go forward. So PANTHER, Danny mentioned, is quite simple compared to other platforms trials, but I think once you dig into it, is actually quite complex, and that provides a lot of opportunities for early career researcher involvement that I'm going to tell you about. So I think some of the key things to point out is PANTHER splits patients into two groups, hypo and hyperinflammatory, by circulating cytokines. Those two groups are not 50-50, which I think is important as well for the methodological considerations. They're split by a multivariate model using a rapid point of care device, and we're using multiple devices in PANTHER, so that adds complexity as well and other questions. And those devices are not 100% sensitive and specific in all scenarios, so there's other questions there as well. So if you look at that, we move patients forward into the phenotypes, we randomize, we adapt randomization, and then we add, so we don't use exact response adapt randomization, but we use interim analyses to declare benefit or futility early, and then we can add further treatments as we go on. So there's multiple different points where you can come in as an early career researcher and get involved in this whole setup. So from the very beginning, there's a lot of methodological considerations that we've heard about today on how you design a PANTHER, how you design a platform trial, how you deal with things like response adaptive randomization versus block randomization, how you coordinate across sites, across countries. And then in PANTHER specifically, because we're incorporating different phenotyping models with devices, with routine clinical data across multiple jurisdictions and countries. There's so many more questions on how we model this and how we incorporate this uncertainty into actually deciding what we do in the trial and improving what we do in the trial going forward. Then there's also obviously loads of opportunities for trial leadership, because PANTHER is a very big, disseminated international collaboration with lots of different subcommittees and leading committees, with plenty of opportunities for early career researcher involvement and leadership. And then within PANTHER, there's a large element of biobanking. So a lot of what we're doing to design the trial going forward is we're using point of care biomarkers, but we're also storing a lot of respiratory samples, blood samples, urine samples, storing them in a central biobank and using that to drive translational studies that can then feed back into the trial and potentially add in new phenotyping methods or add in new mechanistic understanding or potentially lead to new interventions being added into the trial. So there's a huge kind of continuously self-propagating cycle that pushes PANTHER forward. So why does ECR infrastructure matter in PANTHER, and why do we set it out from the get-go? So we've heard a little bit about this. Big risk with platform trials is because they're essentially designed to run perpetually, if we can get them funded perpetually, is that they can be a bit of a mechanism for the boys to, keep it to the boys and not share out opportunities, So the opportunities can concentrate around established networkers and well-networked centers, which is obvious. And then we can limit opportunities for future generations of trial leaders, because the big names get all the opportunities, they keep churning out publications, and then nobody gets in and nobody gets trained, and the expertise doesn't go forward. ECR contributions can go unrecognized, because these things are by nature very big, and the big names can get more recognition than the people who are coming up in their careers. And there's also the risk that platform trials suffocate other trials that are going on at participating sites, because they can be complex, they can be more resource intensive, and they can be more demanding in terms of regulatory requirements and site staff requirements. So you have to be careful about all those things. In PANTHER, we're addressing all those different things by different mechanisms. So I think some of the main things we're doing, we're making ECR rules explicit from the beginning. So early career researchers are a part of every element of PANTHER, and they lead every element of PANTHER with shadow mentorship. We're pairing ECRs with mentors. So they can come in with a mentor, or they can be paired with the broader mentorship group, and there's a disseminated mentorship approach. We recognize contributions from ECRs in a very pre-specified manner, so we're drafted and releasing ECR statements on recognition. And then we also have a mandated system for open access to data for secondary analysis and open access to samples for translational studies. And there's actually a requirement that all translational studies that happen within PANTHER are led by an ECR. So to summarize, we aim to make ECR contributions clear, mandatory, recognized from the beginning of the trial. We want to pair ECRs with mentors to allow learning opportunities and also leverage a kind of a dissipated mentorship structure that PANTHER benefits from, so the large international group. And we're generating clear prospective statements on how ECRs need to be recognized using the credits statement and using kind of a movie credits kind of approach, which I can talk about as well. So this is an overview of the PANTHER trial structure. You can look at this in a lot of different ways. So I mean, this is just looking at kind of the scientific ideas behind PANTHER and how that's broken up into subcommittees. But when you look at funding, when you look at governance across countries, it becomes very complex. I almost think you need to make this diagram three-dimensional, which would get very complicated. But essentially, these are some of the main subcommittees. So there's a biobanking committee, there's an intervention prioritization committee, so deciding which interventions get into the trial and how we do that in a clear, transparent manner. ECR involvement specifically, so how we involve ECRs, methodological requirements, funding acquisition, and patient and public involvement. And they all kind of feed into the executive committee that is reportable to the trial steering committee for all these decisions. So I guess that all looks good, but one thing we definitely want to avoid in PANTHER is something that looks like this, where it becomes a bit of a mafia. And Danny's still in the room. I don't know, do you want to be Vito or or Al Pacino there? But so this is not what PANTHER is, but this is the danger of what platform trials can turn into if there is not an explicit mechanism to support and fund and encourage the development of ECRs within the trial infrastructure. So back to the actual design of PANTHER. One way we get around that happening is by having ECR leads with every domain. So you can see all these great people here. And a lot of the ECR work done here is actually done by Mary Smith, who's in the middle, who's based in Amsterdam and is on maternity leave at the moment. But there's plenty of other ECRs involved, some of whom are in this room, and plenty more on all the other committees. And I'm lucky enough to be a member of the executive committee as well. So on to the point about mentorship, ECRs are paired with mentors throughout all of PANTHER, so from the get-go. Because trial leadership itself still remains a bit of a dark art, like it's kind of hard to lead trial leadership, to learn trial leadership without an apprenticeship methodology still. So I think the mentorship approach is important, and you can come in with a mentor, you can be paired with a mentor, and then you can be linked in with the broader group of international experts, many of whom are present in this room. There's also plenty of opportunities for recognition and career advancement within PANTHER. You can get involved in high-level decision-making through all these committees, so leading committees, chairing meetings, having support from a senior researcher behind you. And then this will hopefully lead to the development of future trial leaders, which I think is key to keeping these platform trials running. So they're not going to work if we don't train future leaders with the expertise and pass on the torch. So this is to highlight the methodological research opportunities for ECRs. So this is work led by Ed Waddingham in Imperial, who's done a lot of the simulation work on PANTHER. So this is looking at all the different scenarios that influence sample size calculation within PANTHER. So, are our main assumptions met? Do we increase recruitment rate across sites? Because PANTHER is an adaptive trial that has no fixed sample size, all these things need to be considered. So you can think about just all the different questions that can be answered with methodological research, and all the further methodological questions that can be added when you start adding in the complexity of a device, multiple devices in multiple countries, multiple phenotyping methods in multiple countries, multiple interventions with multiple different safety profiles, and how you can use that to make our phenotyping methods and our interventions better. The other main point where ECRs can get involved in Panther is through translational research. So this is to highlight the biobanking approach that we have in Panther. So we employ a tiered biobanking approach where different sites can collect different samples based on their ability and their expertise and their facilities. So starting at the bottom where we just use the phenotyping samples, then move on to higher level sites that are collecting plasma, serum, urine, DNA, RNA, all the way up to the top where we have the opportunity for bigger sites to collect bowel samples, and we can use that for translational studies. So the other thing to point out here is that biobanking is somewhat decentralized in the sense that each country and each region will have a lead site that concentrates samples in one site, and they are then passed to the global lead site at the end where that'll store the biobank. And again, to highlight that biobanking in Panther is a necessary requirement of accessing the biobank is that your proposal is led by an ECR. We're also working on recognition. So Panther's done a statement on ECR recognition, on how we actually recognize early career research involvement in all phases of the study. So we heavily rely on the credit taxonomy, which many of you will be aware of, and that's going to be completed at site at the start and end of the study for everyone involved. There's a statement on appropriate recognition on publications on PubMed, but also within the website, also within certificates that can be used for career advancement and grant applications later on. ECRs are involved in all aspects of manuscript drafting. They've given opportunities for sub-study leads through translational work and through methodological work and through SWOTs, so studies within a trial. So just some highlighted recent activities that the ECR group has come out with. So there's an information video available for patients on Panther consent processes and what the trial is, and that's available on the website. So that was produced by a group of ECRs within the trial with PPI input. There's a webinar program that we're joining up with Practical on that a lot of ECRs have already spoken at and is being led by ECRs and is being disseminated freely. So it's on YouTube, it's on the websites. We've all been involved in consensus work. So there was a recent statement on phase 2 trials in ARDS that ECRs took a prominent role in drafting. And then a lot of us have been involved in some recent reviews for large journals and critical care. And then again, there was the industry symposia that is kind of a yearly thing that Panther runs. So the most recent one was in London last year. And the whole point of the industry symposium is to interface with industry partners for Panther who want to put their drug into the trial. And this was, again, led and chaired by ECRs predominantly. So why are we doing this? I guess I think I've highlighted a lot of the points why this is beneficial to ECRs. So we have visible leadership roles. It helps with career development. It gives us opportunities to write manuscripts and to ask our own questions and to get involved with the mentorship network. But for Panther itself, I think the important thing to highlight is the capacity, right? So big platform trials are meant to run for a long time. They're methodologically complex. They're somewhat tricky to wrap your head around, initially at least. We've talked a lot about the methodological issues with there not being that many statisticians who understand platform trials in a very deep way. And this needs to be disseminated and grown, and we need to generate the future generation of statisticians, translational scientists, and trial leaders that can keep platform trials going forward and bring them on. So I just want to direct you to the ECR webpage, which I think Danny already put up. So there's a QR code there to get involved. Anyone who wants to get involved with Panther can. And I think another key important point to make about Panther is this is open access. So the other thing that you can raise is that specific ECRs might get specific benefits from already being embedded within mentorship structures within large sites that are active as well. And again, we wanted to avoid that, and we wanted to provide an open mechanism whereby anyone can get involved. Anybody can get involved in manuscript drafting, translational work, and we can connect you with mentors ourselves without you having to come in with a big name behind you. So this is all on the website. You can get involved with the biobank. You can get involved in committees, you can get involved in the webinars, and please join us. Thanks very much.